Welcome back for the very last time in this 2021 Telstra NRL Premiership Season 2, the NRL Punters Weekly Digest. As per usual, my name is Ben. That has not changed for this whole season. And I am the host of this show / vlog / podcast, whatever you want to call it. Before we get into this week's episode, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, you know what to do. I've been saying it for the past 25 rounds. Please subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications, and if you like this content, please give me a like. I appreciate all your support. Let's get straight into it, starting with how it went tips-wise and anytime try scorer betting-wise in round 24. I tipped 6 from 8, which is not too shabby. I had the Knights, the Raiders, Rabbitohs, did not have the Dragons. They did not come through for me. Sharks, tipped the Storm. They did not come through either. Seagulls and the Panthers, I got them. In the anytime try scorer stakes, I got 11 of 24 this round. And humble brag here, the 3 anytime try scorers that I picked for the Penrith game, Brian To'o, Jerome Luai, and Moses Leota, they all came through. So if you got on any of those and I've lined your pocket a little bit, you're welcome. I'm going to throw a bit of shade at myself here. I thought that Manly and Penrith were going to both win by huge margins, and I was wrong. They won comfortably, but not as comfortably as I would have thought. And I did the silly thing of dropping 50 on a 30-plus double of those two sides, and it didn't come through. Didn't come through. Worse than that is I had some anytime try scorers in the Panthers game. And I did not get on the anytime try scorers that I suggested in last week's show. I veered off course a little bit, and as a result, my bet didn't come through. So I guess the lesson out of that is I shouldn't listen to myself, but I should also listen to myself. I should listen to what I put in this show, betting-wise, but not what I'm thinking on the weekend, spur of the moment. I've had a few beers, I'm feeling confident. I just lost one of my multis, and I'm thinking, I've got to chase that back. But of course, you should never chase your losses. Gamble responsibly. And just so you know out there, I am not a super frequent bettor. I would say I bet more infrequently than frequently. So, yeah, take a page out of my book. Let's move on. I feel like I'm trying to justify a filthy habit that I have, but I don't have that habit, so it's fine. I'm all good. I'm all good in my life. I don't need gambling, whether it's there or not. I'm fine. I still live my life. I've got football. That's what I'm in there for. All right, first game this round. Thursday night. It's a huge clash in the context of my team's season, and for many fans out there, it's going to be a huge clash, one way or the other. The Raiders take on the Roosters from BB Stadium in Mackay. Ghost? I don't know. You be the judge. I haven't touched anything on that shelf. Nothing's moved there for a long time. Who came off the shelf? Danny Badiris. Bad omen for him, possibly. Danny, stay home this evening. Do not take your automobile anywhere. Don't do anything out of the ordinary. I'm going to keep you nice and safe next to me. I'm going to throw some good juju your way. Terry Campese, he's all good. That's good. He's safe, as well as Willie Mason. Let's be honest. If you want one of those players to go down, maybe it's Big Willie. No, just kidding. Love Big Willie. The player. All right. Last week, Raiders beat the Warriors. It was a great game. They were down 16-6 going into the halftime break. I've got to be honest. A little bit of biased here, but knowing my Raiders, I was pretty confident they were going to come back and win this game. It's just kind of how they're built. You know, they go down early, they get a bit of ball, they get a bit of confidence, and they come back in the second half steaming, which is what they did. Chance Nickel-Klooster was outstanding. I can't wait to see him starting this week. I think he's ready and raring to go. And if there's going to be an X factor in the Raiders, other than Jordan Rapana, or maybe a Jack Whiten, who's been in quite good form lately, it's CNK to go all the way. Roosters, they went down to the Rabbitohs. 12-54. That was a huge loss for them. No one really cares about the result of that game. All that anyone is ever talking about at the moment is the Latrell Mitchell high tackle on Joey Manu, which was quite disgusting. Now, I'm not going to dwell too much on this topic. It's been spoken about for the past, 5-6 days in depth. People have got their views on the incident. Was it a bad shot? Yes, it was. Was the right call made on the field? No, he should have been sent off. But in saying that, Latrell misses out on football for the rest of the season. Flip side of that is that Joey Manu also misses out on football for the rest of the season, which isn't fair. Serious injury to the face. I don't think it was intentional. People are out there saying Buzz Rothfield are pretty much making out like it was an intentional shot. I don't think that there was any intent in that at all. It was a sloppy tackle, yes, but it's really distressing to think that fans and critics alike publicly crucifying Latrell Mitchell and on social media, and apparently there were some death threats to himself and his family. I don't know too much more about that other than on face value, what I've heard on NRL 360 and in the news, but it's quite disgusting. Anyone out there who's watching this, who partakes in that kind of behavior, just don't do it. It's terrible. Latrell Mitchell, I don't know him personally. I'm sure he's a good bloke. The people around him obviously think that and love him, so give him a break. He made the wrong call. He's paying the price. Unfortunately, so is Joey Manu. In terms of team changes for both sides this week, as I mentioned earlier, CNK starting at fullback, which is great. Jordan Rapana moves to the wing, which he's been, I was going to say admirable in the fullback role, but he's been outstanding. He's gone above and beyond. But that's what Jordan Rapana does for the Canberra Raiders. He puts his heart on his sleeve and he gets into his work. He's been outstanding from fullback, but wing's his best position, and he's back there, which is great. Bailey Simonson is injured, so he's taking his spot there. Sia Soliola is starting at lock. Apparently that was a request from the Raiders leadership group to have him starting, and then Ryan Sutton comes off the bench. For the Roosters, there's a heap of changes for them. They just continue to battle adversity, and it only gets worse for them with Joey Manu out, although Siosiwa Takiaho, it has been named to play and was, quite questionable. So whether or not he ends up playing tomorrow evening, and he's been named, is another story. But if he plays, huge boost for them. In the betting stakes, you'll get $2.15 for the Raiders, which I think are really good odds. I think they're a good shot of winning this game, and $1.70 for the Roosters. Anytime try scorers, I've got Jordan Rapana at $1.85. He's in great form. Harley Smith-Shields at $1.90. And Daniel Tupou, the ever reliable Daniel Tupou at $1.72. In the margin betting, if you like Raiders 1-12 like I do, you'll get $3.40 for that. And my tip in this game is the Raiders to win by 6. Friday night, Sharks, Melbourne. Another huge game in the context of this season. Really, it's Cronulla and it's Canberra that are fighting it out for that eighth place spot. The Titans are still mathematically in the mix, but they're relying on both Canberra and Cronulla losing and them winning by a certain margin. So it's really a two-horse race, technically speaking. If it's anything outside of that ends up being the result, then, egg on my face. But let's assume it's either the Sharkies or the Raiders that are going through. Sharkies play Melbourne on Friday night. Huge game. Sharks last week beat the Broncos. It was the game they needed to secure themselves in the 8 at the conclusion of round 24. They did what they needed to do. And this week they play a depleted Melbourne side who have rested a bunch of players. They're not going to be easy beats. In fact, Melbourne are still favourites, but, it's the best time of year to play Melbourne, when they're depleted and when there's everything at stake for your club. The finals depend on it. All Sharks need to do is win. Basically, all they need to do is win. If the Raiders won by a margin of about 60 or 80 points or something like that, whatever it is, even if the Sharkies win, I guess technically they're not home and hosed, but let's just assume all they need to do really is just get over the line against Melbourne. Last week, the Storm went down to the Eels, and it was the loss that ended their win streak. And it just, it really, I think that performance probably says more about Parramatta than it does say about Melbourne. But in all fairness, Melbourne weren't full strength. Parramatta just showed up when they needed to. Have they shown enough to stamp any kind of premiership credentials? I don't think so yet. But look, I think the Storm are going to be better for that loss. How often do we see the Storm losing 2 games in a row? Not very often. I'm hoping it doesn't happen this week, though. In terms of team changes, a huge boost for the Sharkies. Matt Moylan starts at 6 with Luke Metcalf coming onto the bench. Moving to the bench, sorry. For the Storm, a million changes. Please refer to the team list because they're resting a bunch of players. In the betting markets, you'll get $3.30 for the Sharks, which I think are good odds if you think the Sharkies will get up, and $1.32 for the Storm, really no value for them. Anytime try scorer market, I am tipping Ryan Papenhuyzen to use this game to elevate himself back into some form of form, to get himself back into the form that he needs to be in to lead this Melbourne Storm team from the back coming into the finals. $2.10 for him to score a try. I think he'll score. Justin Olam, $2.20. And Sione Katoa from the Sharks, $2.05. He likes to find the try line. My tip in this game is a Storm to win by 7. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a really tough game. And if you like that Storm 1-12 margin, you'll get $3 for that. Eels, Panthers. Second Friday night game from Cbus Super Stadium. By the way, that Sharkies Storm game is also played from Cbus Super Stadium. So if you can get to that doubleheader, that is a hell of a night of football. Probably one of the best of the year, with a lot on the line for all these teams. You know, with Melbourne, it's the minor premiership. With the Sharks, it's a final spot. With Parramatta, it's a top 4 spot potentially. And with Parramatta, it's also, and with Penrith, it's also a minor premiership spot up for grabs, you know, depending on the results in the Melbourne game. Last week, the Eels beat the Storm. I mentioned that earlier. They're not contenders yet for mine, but if they would have beat the Panthers, who are full strength this week, then they definitely put themselves into that conversation. The Panthers did what they needed to do against the Tigers. They won 30-16. I was expecting them to win by a lot more. They didn't. What are you going to say? I mean, the Panthers have had an outstanding season. You can't begrudge them for just doing the job against the Tigers, who, you know, were a bit desperate and wanted to show their fan base, you know, what they can do against a premiership big hitter, and they certainly would have won some admirers based on that performance. In terms of team changes for both sides, please refer to the team list. Heaps of changes for both teams. Oh, actually, sorry. Heaps of changes for the Eels. They're resting a million players. They're resting more players than the Storm, I believe. They've got a really young side, barely recognisable. Interesting call with a top 4 spot still up for grabs, but whatever. I guess Brad Arthur is just rewarding his young players who've been watching from the sidelines all season. Panthers have made no changes to their side that beat the Tigers last week. What a luxury to have at this time of year. In the betting stakes, you'll get $11 for the Eels, and you know what? That's fair given the roster that they're putting out this week. Barely recognisable. Hardly any first graders in there, really. $1.03 for the Panthers. You'll get that. And in the anytime try scorer markets, I like Stephen Crichton $1.45. Brian To'o at $1.42. He's just about a lock every week. And then Viliami kick out $2.30. Scored last week. Will he score again? I think against a young Parramatta side, he's every chance. My tip in this game is Penrith to win by a big margin. I'm saying 40 points, and if you like that 13 plus from the Panthers, there's no value there. Don't touch it unless it's in a multi. You'll get $1.15. First Saturday game, Broncos take on the Knights from Suncorp Stadium. Broncos last week were good. They just weren't good enough to beat the Sharks. To be fair, they're really having their best month of football that they've had, I don't know, maybe all season. They've been playing a lot better. Encouraging signs moving into next season, especially with some astute acquisitions that they've made. I still think they probably need a little bit more depth, but the good thing about the Broncos, and I know I've said this before, they have a really good young side that's a couple of seasons off starting to hit their straps. So a lot of encouraging signs for the Broncos. Knights beat the Titans 15-14. They didn't really have much to play for. They'd already secured 7th spot. They couldn't really move up or down. They got the job done. I can't really say much more about that performance. It was a game certainly the Titans didn't want to lose in the context of their season. For team changes, please refer to the team list. Heaps for both teams. In the betting markets, $2.40 for the Broncos, $1.55 for the Knights. Anytime try scorers, I've got Inari Tuala at $1.62, Bradman Best $2.30, and Selwyn Cobbo at $2.60. I don't know if you can hear my computer fan, but it's going off, so I'm going to take the power out. Excuse me. I'm tipping the Knights to win this one by 10, and if you like the 1-12, you'll get $2.90 for them. Second Saturday game sees the Cowboys take on the Seagulls. Cowboys last week got the win against the Dragons. They moved out of 15th spot into 14th with their 7th win of the season, and if anything, it's a massive sigh of relief for the coach, the players, the club, all North Queenslanders out there that support the Cowboys. Good on you for the win. Seagulls let me down in my multi. They beat the Bulldogs 36-18, but I really wanted them to win by like 50 points. I didn't need them to win by 50, but I expected they would win by that kind of margin. Tommy Turbo got a hat-trick, and it's weird watching him play sometimes. He scores these tries. It's like he's just like in a canter on the treadmill. He just looks very kind of relaxed and just going about his business. And I know he's super fast, and I don't know if it's just because he's so tall, but sometimes he doesn't look that fast. He just like looks like he's striding through. He's kind of like skiing his way to the try line. Outstanding player. I mean, I've watched football for a lot of years, and honestly, like, I know back in the day we used to rave on about how, players like Greg Inglis were, how they were, in a sense, were kind of revolutionary for their size and their position and their speed. But I don't know what Tom Trbojevic is doing. I've never seen Greg Inglis do that on a consistent basis. Look, Greg Inglis is an all-time great of our game. I don't think he'll ever be an immortal, but the way Tom Trbojevic is going, if he can stay relatively injury-free, I know he's a little bit prone there. He's still very young. If he can get 250, 300 games under his belt. He might only need to do it at around the 200 mark, play a bunch of rep football, which he's definitely going to do as long as he's fit and on the park. That guy's an immortal for mine. He's one of the best players I've ever seen, and he doesn't cease to surprise me on a week-to-week basis. Team changes. Cowboys, Ruben Cotter is injured, so Cohen Hess and Jason Taumalolo start at prop and lock, respectively. Articulation. Seagulls, Sean Kepi and Taniela Paseka return to the side via the interchange bench, and Josh Alloway starts at prop. Betting market, no surprises here. $8 for the Cowboys. I don't see them being anywhere close to in this contest, but they did win last week. I know it was only against the Dragons, but you never know. They could make it close. I doubt it. $1.07 for the Seagulls. Anytime try scorers, look, I've gone all Manly Seagulls here, and I've gone their back three because their back three have been outstanding all season. They've all scored 20 plus tries? It's so stupid. And I was looking at Tom Trbojevic's strike rate. He's only played 14 games this season, and I think going by his strike rate, if he'd played the same amount of games as Ruben Garrick and Jason Saab, he'd be on track to score 30 plus tries in a season, which is ridiculous. Makes you wonder if he may actually hit that, if he can be fit for a whole season. Although that being said, the teams that are struggling with the increased pace of the game, that are only starting to get used to it, are only going to improve next year. So maybe those gaps don't open up for as much for Tommy, although he's pretty damn good, so he'll find the space anyway. Tom Trbojevic, $1.55 if you want him to score. Jason Saab, $1.38, and Ruben Garrick, $1.42. Let's be honest, there's no value there, but you can bet your bottom dollar if you whack a couple of those anytime try scorers into a multi, you'll up your value, and it's not far off a safe bet. No bet is a safe bet, but as safe as bets can be, I feel like try scorer wise, you're looking at Manly, you're looking at back three, a combination. of those guys in a multi. Anyway, I've rambled about that for long enough. My tip in this game is Manly to win by 20 points. And if you like the Seagulls 13 plus, you won't get any value there. So maybe whack it into a multi, $1.32. Rabbitohs Dragons from Sunshine Coast Stadium. Rabbitohs last week. Great job on annihilating the Roosters 54-12. But the only thing we're talking about out of that game, let's be honest, is the Latrell Mitchell hit on Joey Manu. Let's not dwell too much more on that. Let's move on. Dragons lost against the Cowboys. And look, it was a game that really meant nothing in the context of their season in terms of their ability to make finals. But a win would have been nice. I want to give a big shout out to my mate Rick Simpson, who's a Dragons fan. He's not doing too well at the moment. Hang in there, Rick. Next season, you can only be better, right? I mean, I don't know. I say this now, but when my team doesn't make finals come next week, I'm going to be in a dark space. No, I don't want to put the mock on them, okay? I believe in you guys. I believe in you, but there's just so many factors at play. Anyway, team changes. Rabbitohs, they made a bunch of changes. Please refer to the team list. For the Dragons, Gerald Beale will start in place of Zach Lomax, who's out of the side, with Puasa Fa'ama'ausili. I've got to practice that one. I haven't even really watched this guy play too much, to be honest. So first time I'm seeing that name come up. I do apologise, Puasa. You are taking Jackson Ford's other centre spot, so all the best to you. Betting markets, $1.73 for the Rabbitohs, even though they're a little bit depleted with finals around the corner. Dragons, $2.10. Anytime try scorer market, I've got Campbell Graham at $2.30. I like those odds there. Jack Bird at $2.60 for Saints, and Tyrell Sloan at $1.95. I'm actually tipping the Dragons to win this one. I'm tipping them to win by 14 points, and that's just on account of all the changes from Souths. And if you like that 13 plus for the Dragons, $4.60 there. Look, plenty of value. If you think the Dragons are going to win, you think they can win that by that margin. Look, I would personally suggest, do what you want to do, but don't go crazy. Don't go crazy on that. They're really good odds there. If you're only going to back the margin, maybe put a small bet on there, or multi it into something. Or maybe hit it a bit harder if you're only betting on the 13 plus, $20-$30, whatever you can afford. But also whack it into a multi. But don't drop too much on that. You'll get some great odds. Who knows? Who knows what will happen? It's the last round of the regular season. Anything could happen. All right, Sunday games. Titans, Warriors. A game that doesn't mean anything in the context of the season, but both these sides will be playing for pride. Titans were just edged out by the Knights last week. Again, they are mathematically a chance of making the finals, but it's quite an outside chance. Warriors went down to the Raiders last week. And, it seems to be a recurring theme with the Warriors. They can get some good starts, or they can really have themselves in the thick of the contest, and then they kind of drop off. They don't go on with it. And if they were to go back and look at their season, in retrospect, they would probably identify there might be half a dozen games there that maybe they should have won. Or half those games they should have definitely won, and the other half they were definitely in there with a chance. Not too dissimilar to the Raiders, really, in that they've squandered, by my count, at least half a dozen opportunities to win games there. Interestingly enough, I was watching a Jordan Rapana interview the other day when he was talking about re-signing with the club for another 2 years, which I'm over the moon about, personally. Sorry, I don't mean to ramble on about my side, but this is poignant to the point that I'm about to make here. So he basically identified that if you look at the games that the Raiders were in and probably should have won, and probably would have won in season 2019 or season 2020, they win half those games and they're fighting for a top 4 spot. So when we're looking back at the Raiders season, not a great season by their standards, but for them to still be in finals contention and be, far from their best football, a lot of disruptions this season. You lose your halfback, that's a massive loss, huge loss. But for them to still be in the thick of it, big accomplishment there. Team changes, Titans. The only change to last week's 17 is Mo Fotuaika has been promoted from the bench to start at prop, with Tino Fa'asua Maliawi sliding back to lock, and Sam McIntyre goes to the bench. For the Warriors, Sean O'Sullivan covers the injured Chad Townsend at halfback. So Chad Townsend had played his last game for the Warriors, with Chanel Harris-Tavita returning from injury at 5'8", and Jermaine Tonor-Brown comes to the interchange bench in place of Bunty Afoa. In the betting markets, $1.30 for the Titans, $3.40 for the Warriors. Anytime try scorers, I like Jaden Campbell, son of Preston, at $1.85. Reece Walsh, the little maestro, at $2.30, and Marcelo Montoya at $2.05. I'm tipping the Warriors to win this one by 8 points, and if you like that 1-12 margin, $5. Last game of this regular season, Tigers Bulldogs, another game that really doesn't mean anything. These teams are playing for pride. I wish them both the best. The Tigers last week were never meant to beat the Panthers, and they did not. But they showed a lot of guts, so we can say that. Bulldogs, same. They put 18 points on the board. It was a resilient performance by them and by their standards. But it was never going to be enough against a Seagull side that once they got into their groove, it was just way too easy for them. Team changes, Tigers. Kelma Tuolangi replaces the injured Alex Seyfarth on the interchange bench. And for the Doggies, Corey Waddell returns from suspension to take the second row spot, vacated by Matt Dury. He suffered a torn ACL in the loss to Manly. In the head-to-head market, $1.44 for the Tigers, $2.75 for the Bulldogs. To be honest, it's a coin toss this game, if you ask me. Anytime try scorers, David Nofaluma, $1.58, Tommy Talau, $1.95, and Corey Allen from the Dogs at $1.80 is what I like. I am tipping the Tigers to win this one. I think they're just going a bit better than the Bulldogs, and I'm tipping them to win by 12 points. And if you like that 1-12 margin, $3 for that is a pretty good bet there. And that is it. That is the last video for this 2021 NRL Telstra Premiership regular season. Next week, I will be back with my round 1 of the first week of finals video, where we'll cover 4 games, because in the first week, we've got the 4 games. We'll cover the 4 games. We'll talk about my tips, just as per usual, who I think's going to do what. And hopefully I'll be in a good mood knowing that my Raiders are playing finals football next week. I will see you then.